Hi, and welcome to my channel. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Lynn, and today I have a flip of the Spellbinders August 2022 club kits. As a flip video, I'll be making at least one flat, one layered, one interactive, and one pop-up card. This is a really quick sort of preview of the 5 cards that I'll be making in this video. I will timestamp this video, so if you only have time to watch a couple, then at least that way you can skip straight to the cards you are most interested in seeing me make. So as always, I'm going to start off with my flat card, and for this card I'll be using the clear stamp of the month. With the clear stamp of the month, you do actually have 2 options with this club kit. You can get just the stamp by itself, or you can get the stamp and the coordinating dies that go along with it. So initially I was thinking that I would just sort of wing it and stamp the leaves and the flowers onto the stem without using a stamp positioning tool, but then ultimately I decided I'll probably be more successful using one. So here I'm using my Make Art Station, which has this convenient, I think it's sold separately, the stamp positioning tool. So it's this L-shaped plastic piece here that has magnets embedded in it. And then you can line up your stamp where you want it, pick it up with your acrylic block, making sure that your acrylic block is kind of nestled within that L shape. And that means that you'll stamp in the same position every time. So pretty easy, convenient to use. I find it faster than using my stamping platform, so that's why I've chosen to use it here. Now with this stamp set, I really love it because it has solid stamps. So if you don't have a lot of time to color, then the solid stamps are a really great way to add color to your project. And here, these layered stamps have the stem, as one stamp, then you've got the leaves as a separate stamp, and the little flower buds as separate stamps as well. So you can really just kind of pick and choose what colors you want to use. And so I'm stamping directly onto my 5x7 card base, and instead of using different colors for my flowers and leaves, I actually wanted to go kind of monochromatic, black and white. And so what I did was I stamped the stems in a gray, and then the leaves and flowers I'll stamp in black. With the flowers here, I did ultimately decide that it's these ones are a little bit easier to position correctly because you just really have to line it up right at the bottom there, and if you're a little bit off, I didn't find it that big of a deal. So I was much faster and actually stamped better doing it by eyeballing it than actually using my positioning tool. But I really love this set because there are just so many different flower sprays, foliage, and different sizes as well, different shapes. So you can really build up your own little spray or a little bouquet even. So kind of nice and really easy to stamp out a background. Now, my plan for this card from the outset has been to use this Polaroid frame that I wanted to kind of frame, but not actually put anything in the center. So I wish what I had done was actually planned ahead a little bit to decide where I was going to put the Polaroid frame so that I could at least sort of compose whatever pattern was going to be framed in the center there. I think ultimately in the end it looks okay, but I think it might have looked a little bit better had I had a chance to actually compose that. The dies for the word thanks and the little flowers are actually from the small die of the month, which is pretty fantastic because the flowers that come in the small die of the month, they're not the identical dies that you would get in the coordinating die set with the stamp of the month, but they have very similar shaped flowers, and you'll see them again here on this card as well. So I'll be creating 2 layered cards, and what I've already done is taking the embossing folder of the month. I actually embossed a 5.5 by 8.5 sheet of vellum. And I love embossing vellum because I love that that sort of white design that you get from the embossing. I did end up with a little bit of cracking with my vellum. I did spray it with water, but maybe that's not enough to prevent the cracking. It's hardly noticeable. In fact, you might have actually just seen it there when I ran some tape across that edge, but I didn't lose any pieces. It was just a little bit of cracking. Now with vellum, it's a little bit tricky because wherever you put adhesive, it's going to be visible. You'll be able to see it because it does alter the look of the vellum. Normally when I'm using vellum, I try to hide whatever adhesive I use underneath anything that gets layered on top of the vellum. So that's a way to sort of hide or disguise the effect that adhesive can have on vellum. But in this case, the only thing I'm really going to put on top of this is the sentiment thanks and maybe a couple of flowers, and I'm only putting them right in the center. So it's going to leave, if I only put adhesive behind the word thanks, for example, it's going to leave a lot of vellum unattached to the card, and that's going to make it really fragile and easy to bend or fold or even tear off. So what I decided to do was just run a line of adhesive tape along all 4 edges so that even though it's visible, it may look a little bit more like it's intentional as a border design. So that's how I sort of got around doing that. Now these flowers here that I've die cut out of some gold foil paper and like a cream pearlescent paper are from the small die of the month, as well as the thanks sentiment, which I love the font of. It's sort of that casual scripty handwriting font that I really like, and I do like that thin font as well. And thankfully they've also included the bubble or the shadow layer so that with these thinner fonts you'll have a much easier time of kind of setting the sentiment apart from the background if you have that shadow layer. My next card is basically the same design, just in a different colorway. So on this one, I'll have more of a like a lighter teal and white, where the previous was more gold and black. So I've trimmed down this panel to be just shy of my USA 2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 folded. And the beauty of having such a large embossing folder where you can emboss an entire 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 panel is that from one sheet you can actually get layers or panels for 2 cards, which is why I made this second one. Since I already had the embossed panel, I figured I may as well use it. So on this one, again, I'm going to do the same thing. I did trim it down a little bit because I only want the vellum to cover the teal solid color cardstock. So I'll do the same where I actually switched over to a solid tape runner instead of my dotty tape runner because it is going to be visible. So instead of seeing little dots, you'll see a more solid border there. And then I'll do the exact same thing. So I've already layered up my sentiment. This time I chose the word congrats. You do get a fair number of words. So you have congrats, cheers, hello, for, and you. And with the thanks, because the S is separate, you could do thank you. The shadow or the bubble layer, you may have to trim if you on the word thanks if you wanted to use that. But if you were just using the word does, then since that S is separate, you don't necessarily have to use it. So that does make it a little bit more versatile. But you could also use combine for you or hello you. So lovely, easy to use, very useful sentiments in that stamp set or die set. Moving on to my interactive card, this one will feature the APG die of the month, which has this amazing, you actually get, I think, 2 of these panels, which die cut beautifully intricate designs into your card, but they don't have a complete or solid outside cutting line. So this gorgeous sort of vine pattern will stay in your card. And in the course of making this card, I mean, there are a couple of opportunities where you could just stop and and the card would be lovely. But this card will ultimately be my interactive card, and I'll be making a shaker panel out of this. So here we're looking at the back, and I'm just going to line this behind this intricate pattern here. I'll line it with a layer of acetate. This is just my normal thin acetate, not the super strong construction weight that I would use for things like pop-up stands. This is thinner and more affordable. And so I've lined this panel with that acetate, but if you've ever made a shaker, you know that you have to have a fully enclosed shaker window or well to enclose all of your shaker bits. And with this design, you can see the left and right ends, they're open. This is such a lacy design that if I were to put foam adhesive along the left and right in order to enclose a shaker well, that foam adhesive would be visible from the front. So what I've done is taken the flower dies and various leaf dies in the set, and I'm going to line the left and right border with these elements so that I have a place to hide my foam adhesive on the back. And these flowers are, and the leaves as well, come in a set of 2 dies for each flower. So you can use them together and you would get that sort of lacy detail that I've cut the lighter color out of. And you can use just the solid outline die by itself to create sort of that fill in the flower, behind the flower. So really cool, because you could always just take the inner die and die cut that pattern into your card and create different looks that way as well. So really fun, and also you can layer up a variety of different colors and get different effects that way also. So now we're at the back of the card again, and here is where I'll start to place my foam adhesive around this acetate window here. So I'm creating a shaker well, and basically what that means is creating an area that is completely enclosed by foam. That way, when we put our shaker fill into this opening here, none of those, in this case I'm using sequins, none of the sequins will escape. And the way that I like to make my shaker cards is I do like to put a second layer of acetate to completely enclose all of this. That way, when I go to position this onto my card base, it's just easier for me to position it. And a lot of times people will put their shaker bits right onto their card base and then line up the front panel and attach it that way. And I always have a hard time with that. Inevitably, there are some of my shaker bits that get that aren't completely inside the shaker well. So that is my little shaker card. And the final card I have to share will be my pop-up card. And here I'll be using the large die of the month, which is really, really adorable. It helps you to create this large strawberry plant. And there are actually 3 different size strawberries that you can cut out. And for each size, there's actually 2 different dies. One that will cut out this piece here, which has all of the little cut out parts for the seeds, and then the second die is just the outline die, and it matches it 100%, and that way you can layer up the 2 and get different looks. So I just raided my scrap bin and found all the different shades of red I could find. And I've assembled these so that I have different shades of strawberries. So it looks I think a little bit more natural that way, because then it'll look more like they are sort of different in ripeness. So this panel here is going to be the front of our pop-up box. So it measures 6 inches wide by 1.5 inch high, and you want to score it at 1/2 inch, 1.5, 4.5, and 5 3/4. The 2 1/4 inch tabs at both ends, those are going to be glue tabs, and later you'll see that I actually miter the corners off of that, where I just cut just a little bit of an angle from the edge of the score line inwards. And you'll see me do that here. That way, when you go to attach this, if it's not completely straight, then you won't have any of this cardstock kind of peeking up. This piece here, the large one, is going to be the back of our pop-up box. That measures 3 inches wide by 5 1/4 high. And I arrived at these dimensions because I did want this to still fold down completely flat and fit into a USA 2 size envelope. These panels, or these pieces here, are what I call bridge pieces. So they are going to be inside of our box and will allow us to attach more elements and have different, like a mid-ground. So you've got a foreground, some mid-ground space, and then the background. And they measure 3.5 inches wide by 1 to 1 1/4 tall, and you want to score it at 1/4 of an inch on both ends. The height doesn't really matter too much. You just want to make sure that it's shorter than 1.5. That way it doesn't stand up above the front of your box, unless that's the look that you're going for. And again, similar to the box, the 2 1/4 inch ends are going to be glue tabs. And so you can kind of see, I'll hold it here just so that you can kind of see a dry fit of how these are going to fit together. And the way that I like to attach my pop-up box is I do like to attach one end and then fold everything flat when I go to attach the opposite end, and you'll see that in a moment here. And the reason why I do that though is because I still want to make sure that everything will fold flat, and if you do it that way, then you know that everything's going to meet up perfectly so that it does fold flat. Sometimes when I've tried to attach things mid-air, it is a little bit crooked or off somehow, and it doesn't quite fold completely flat. So this die that cuts this piece is sort of a basket for your strawberry plant. Because there wasn't a separate die, I just hand cut the backing piece. Okay, so here's a close-up of how I've started to attach this. One glue tab I've actually attached to the inside of the back panel. I've already attached one bridge piece. You can see those two are attached here already. I did line the outside of my box, which I thought to do last minute, and so that's why I don't have footage of doing that. But that's just some nice pattern paper that I wrapped around the front just to make it look a little bit more decorative. And so here I'll go ahead and attach this second bridge piece. So I just have some liquid adhesive. I prefer liquid adhesive, but you can use any strong adhesive. Liquid adhesives are going to be more permanent, so that's why I prefer them. So now with one end completely attached, so we have the box front and the two bridge pieces, those are glued down and attached to the back piece as well. Now what I'll do is I'll put adhesive on all of the remaining glue tabs. So that's the two glue tabs from the bridge pieces and the glue tab from the front of the box. When I start to fold this down flat, what I'll do is fold the front of the box over these two glue tabs from the bridge pieces. So those will get attached to the side of the box essentially. And then I'll fold the back piece. So here I'm folding the side of the box over the bridge piece, and I'll fold the back piece right over the front of the box. And all of that now is super flat, and it guarantees your placement 100% every time. So now I have this other piece that I've cut to that exact same dimension of our back panel. So 3 inches by 5 1/4. But I'm actually going to take a fly's eyelash off of the width of this. And the reason is because this piece is actually it needs to fit inside between the two ends of the front of the box. So it needs to actually be a smidge smaller so that it can actually fit there. And with that piece there, not only is it a nice sort of decorative backdrop for us to attach our plants, but it's also going to hide the glue tabs that are from the front of the box. And that's why I glued those tabs to the inside of this panel. So the back of this back panel here is going to still look nice and neat. There aren't going to be any glue tabs or anything visible there. So you can use the back as a place to write your message and sign your card. And so now comes the really fun part of just decorating the pop-up. So I've got the basket here, which I am going to attach the front, and I'm gonna make sure every time I attach something that when I fold it down, it's still going to fit within the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 dimension of a USA 2 size card. That way, I'm gonna be certain that this will still fit into that size envelope. So some of my strawberry plants, this first one, I'm gonna work back to front because for me that's easiest. So I'll put the darker strawberries in the back as well. That way, kind of looks like they are in shadow. And the die set does come with quite a few leaves, and also these little white flowers, which are really adorable. The die set also includes the little centers for the flowers as well, but I don't actually end up using them. I'll be using Nuvo drops instead. And in addition, one of the things that is kind of neat about the leaves is that there are some leaves that look like they're just half of a leaf. And I actually just use those as if they were just full leaves that are kind of curled up a little bit. But they actually do match. They're kind of identical to these full leaves here that you see. So you could actually die cut them from a different color and then give your leaves sort of like a two-tone effect of a shadow and a highlight. So that's another cool way of using them. But I kind of just like using them as leaves, just regular old leaves. So that's what I've been doing here. Now for my mid-ground, I attached the strawberry plant, the main plant part, to a piece of acetate. This is heavyweight construction acetate, so it'll stand up nice and strong. If you don't buy heavyweight or construction acetate, you can also cut up a bit of plastic packaging, and that'll work really well also, as long as it's nice and clear. And so that's what that's on the I think it's on the front of the two bridge pieces, and on the bridge piece behind it, I attached a lot of greenery and foliage just to make it look a little bit more full. And every once in a while, when you see me kind of push the whole card down flat, it's so that I can make sure that it still all fits into that USA 2 size constraint. And because part of this does fold down, you can actually attach things that go slightly beyond, the left and right edge. It just depends on which way you're actually going to fold it down, where you can, apply or attach things that actually kind of go outside the frame a little bit. And last minute I decided I do actually want a little bit of a sentiment on the front here. So this is some more of that wood grain paper, and I thought I would just cut a little sign. And I white heat embossed a sentiment. This was from the clear stamp of the month. And so I'll attach it to, again, another piece of strong heavyweight acetate. And that way it's nice and sturdy, and it can hold this sign up. And I think it's just a cute little touch to add to this. And I don't mind that it's all hand cut, and I did attach it intentionally a little wonky as well, just to make it look even more kind of like a little stand that's made by hand. So here's a final look at that pop-up card. Lots of fun, lots of dimension, and folds down completely flat. And you can see that I didn't do it on camera, but here you can see how it compares to a USA 2 size card. And I've got the yellow Nuvo drops as the centers of my flowers. So that is my pop-up card. Here's a final recap of all of the cards that I made today. This one is my flat card featuring the clear stamp of the month and the small die of the month. Next are two layered cards that feature the embossing folder of the month and the small die of the month. And really simple, quick makes. I really love this embossed pattern, so really wanted a lot of that to shine on those two cards. Then this is my interactive card, which features the APG die of the month. So just a fun, simple little shaker card, but there are lots of times where I could have just stopped and, called it, a complete card with this, because the patterns are just lovely and very versatile. It does open up to a lot of different designs. And finally, my pop-up card with the strawberry plants. So if I had to pick a favorite, I think it might be this one, but let me know in the comments below if you have a favorite, and if so, which one. Thanks again for joining me today. If you like this video, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. And if you want to catch new videos as I post them, consider subscribing to my channel and ringing the notification bell. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.